Recording. There we go. So, welcome. We're now live for the Saints in STEM podcast. It's a new podcast that we're trying out. I'm really excited about this. This new, I guess, podcast series. I guess is what it's something like this would be called. I'm really excited about our guest today, Sister Amina Kelly Shackleford, who's an undergraduate student. I should have, I guess, before going on, probably should have mentioned what this podcast is about. This is about saints in STEM. What is it like being a Christian and being interested and working to pursue a dream in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I think that's what Sister Amina can correct me if I missed
yes, that's
one.
it.
Okay, woo, yay. I got it. What I know about Sister Amina is that her major is computer science. She wants to do something in the computer science field, which is awesome. Always need people in that field, especially with everything, with the prevalence of technology and everything. It's super important. But let me step away for a little bit. Well, not step away, but let me have Sister Amina tell us more about herself in terms of things that we should know about her.
Okay, well, my name is Amina Kelly Shackleford, and I am a STEM major, specifically focusing on that technology. And I guess I'll talk about how I came to studying being a STEM major in itself. So I am considered a non-traditional student. So what a non-traditional student is someone who has pretty much had a period of time before they decided to continue on with school. And upon first entering school, I was actually a political science major. I know.
Wow.
I know, right? Political science. I wanted to study law, and I still kind of have an interest for law, but what brought me to law was just my upbringing. I'm related to a number of lawyers. My pastor is even a lawyer, so it was just something that came second nature to me. So as my time progressed at Lawson State, I realized that I didn't have to actually have the major of political science to go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
And so within finding that out, that encouraged me, okay, well, find something that, that diversifies you from everyone else who's going to apply to law school. What is going to set you apart from all those applicants? So actually, it's a pretty funny story. We had a lady who came up, and she actually works at Southern Company. Her name is Eva Milton. And she ended up saying that her undergraduate degree was in computer science and that she loved technology. She's always had a love for technology. And I said, that sounds a lot like me.
Mm-hmm.
I have always
what a coincidence.
Right, what a coincidence. I have always been very tech savvy. I've had a computer, my own desktop, since I was maybe about 7, because my stepfather actually, he has an MIS degree, so he has been, submerged in technology as well. So it kind of introduced me to technology. So upon meeting her, it made me say, okay, I want to dive deeper into what computer science is. So I did what everybody does. I Googled it.
Best way to get answers.
Right. So I Googled it and I said, oh, okay, this seems pretty fun. It seems like a challenge. But then I got over to what they require, for you to be a computer science major. If you know anything about it, there's a number of math courses that go along with being a computer science major.
Oh,
So I
yes.
would say right at first that was something that intimidated me, but I didn't allow it to stop me. I decided to reach out to Miss Milton, whom I, kind of name dropped earlier. And I just had a conversation with her, and, she kind of gave me the push I needed. So I went ahead and changed my major to computer science. I just jumped head first. I just jumped in head first. And once I changed my major to computer science at Lawson State, there is a STEM program there. So I, as well as my husband, participate in the STEM program at Lawson State. So it's just a bunch of science majors, technology majors, engineers, and people who love mathematics. And so, within being in that program, it introduced me to, different applications with Python, and I think I found my love when I actually got to tamper around with Raspberry Pi. And for those who are not familiar with Raspberry Pi, it's just a really small computer, a very, very small computer that kind of fits in your hand, that usually people build so that they can experiment with it. And so I ended up getting a chance to put together like a little tutorial for some high school students to try to get them interested in the STEM field. And that's when I knew for a fact, I said, this is for me. It just felt natural. So
I'm
here
so
I am.
glad that you went into detail what the Raspberry Pi was. Because I was about to ask. So that sounds very interesting. But
Yeah.
it.
And
Mhm.
in the Raspberry Pi, just to go a little further into detail, it's very important for a computer science major who wants to pursue research. Let me say that much, to because you don't want to get your expensive laptop that's an investment and do something that could potentially, mess it up. So that's the whole point of the Raspberry Pi, to just kind of give you a chance to experiment. They're very, very affordable. They're very, very affordable. You can do about anything that you can do on a normal computer on that Raspberry Pi. The only downfall is, the screen can be pretty small and it might take you a long time. So I would equate that Raspberry Pi to, if you remember, like in the early, like 2008, when the smartphones were just getting like
Mhm.
extremely popular, and how you would get those videos through, but they would take their time to play.
Yes.
So that's what that's like. But it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Cool. Um. So I guess the next question um is, what has it been like, being, Christian and, being in STEM? Because I just feel like this is just me, maybe,
Mhm.
but kind of there's this feeling that you either have to be Christian and do something else, or you um, or if you want to be, if you're quote unquote serious about STEM, you have to let go of Christian of certain Christian values. I guess, what is it? What has
Right.
your experience been like in um, as a Christian and pursuing a career in STEM?
Well, I would honestly say, and I know this is not going to make any sense at all, but I can honestly say being a Christian has strengthened my STEM experience. And also being in STEM has strengthened my Christian experience. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, when I'm around other people, you're around people who are extremely smart, and sometimes you have what's called imposter syndrome. And if you have, if you haven't ever heard of imposter syndrome, it's just the feeling like you do not belong. And I'll say, in my Christian walk, once I got saved, I will say that's when I actually started to feel like I belonged somewhere. And it seemed like my peers know that the Lord is my life and He is my strength. And I really feel like when it comes to doing certain things within STEM, like if I'm working on a research paper that feels like it's impossible, I'm able to lean in on my Christian value, what my purpose is as a Christian, and it's able to pull me through when I'm able to think about and lean on God, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just so very important, they're both important for my growth. And I've come across people who, or peers that think it's odd, and it really has challenged me, to be more positive when thinking of dealing with myself in situations, or not knowing the answer to things, or failing 6 times, because that has happened. Being able to find strength in God, and I can see the difference between myself and my peers. And so I'm always that go-to person. I'm the motivational speaker as to to try to say, and that can be annoying sometimes, because I feel like my faith isn't a toy, and a lot of times I have been placed in situations, or where it's kind of a joke to some. And my journey's been very interesting as well, because you never want to feel like that you're giving one thing too much time. I want to give God all my time, you know. So that has been my newest challenge, is trying to make sure that nothing in my life comes before God. But as you may know, research can be very time consuming. So it's making sure that I'm just all for God, you know.
And I think it's interesting. One of the things you mentioned, you said earlier, that you know your faith has given you this, given you the feeling that you belong.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just how good God is. He it's he'll never leave you, alone. And I
Right.
feel that a lot of the reason why I think the dropout in terms of rate of people who may start in STEM and not
Mm-hmm.
finish STEM is because they look around and they look at other students that are doing research in Ghana and whatnot, and
Right.
they're looking at people who build airplanes, as a hobby,
And I can
and
speak
that
to
kind of
that as well. Being a double minority, I'm African American and I'm female. A lot of times when I walk into places, I'm either the only Black person or I'm the only female. And so, that can be, just pushing yourself to just be in those places, even if you don't know the answers, is important. Because like you were speaking on, the high school I came from, I wasn't introduced to some of those math classes that maybe some of the other students were introduced to. And so I think you have to take that into consideration when you're going into STEM, is that, your brain is a muscle, and you will continue to exercise that muscle. Just because someone, was introduced to something, a little bit earlier than you, does not represent it doesn't dictate how far you'll go. So what I've learned about this whole process of just being in STEM in general, and as being a Christian, is don't let things or situations or accolades stop me from going where I want to go. And so it's very interesting because I know in my case, I've been around students who have interned with Apple and Microsoft, just the name drop, Google and PayPal, and they're looking at me, okay, what have you done? And I'm like, well, I'm just starting out. And, right at first, I'll say it kind of made me feel funny. I'm like, okay, is there something wrong with me? Or sometimes when you apply to 16 internships and you get turned down for everyone, but then God is able to come through and, give you that one internship and you learn everything that you would have learned in those other places in that one place. And, I'm just so thankful, because as a Christian, all your needs will be met. So I guess that's where I'm at with it now. I just know that my needs will be met. So I can really pursue this for fun. Like I can really enjoy myself and not so much worry about what the outcome is going to be or what's the product of all this work going to be. Because a lot of times when you're talking to, different scientists or different undergrad students who pursue research, they're so concerned about the accolades. What will I get? How will I be noticed or represented from this research? And sometimes I think that gets in the way of the work that you can actually do if you would just let go,
Amen. Amen. I was you name dropped Google, PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you said Amazon or not, but just to give those as examples in terms of there's not just one size fits all like computer
Right.
science. There are so many areas of computer science that are now open. In fact, there are new. It's like I think computer science is one of the few um, areas in STEM that they're literally creating new. It's like literally
Right.
new positions all the time because of what we still are finding out in terms of the potential of it.
Right.
But so, in terms of the millions of possibilities that are out there, which area in computer science are you pursuing?
Okay. Well, right now I'm pursuing data science. And pretty much I can talk about I'll use an example here to kind of help listeners to understand what data science is. You can be
Right.
from any background and really go into data science, but I feel like I chose data science for the specific fact that I can be a little nosy. And I know like with Regions has like a fraud department that there are people who have my same degree who will go in and just analyze how many transactions or fraudulent quote unquote transactions were made in a certain area. And so what I would do is create an algorithm that would help them better deal with the data set or those numbers that they get back from that. So pretty much what a data scientist does is solve major problems for a company. So you have a problem and this is how we can solve it using technology or using the data that you have. And I think that's pretty awesome. I think that's where I fit the most because I have learned that, well, over time I have learned that I'm not as bad at math as I thought I was. So I kind of enjoy working with numbers because I will say there's one thing about math that I can't say about any other undergrad subject is that math does not change. The rules do not change. All my other subjects seem to be merging together in every way possible. But in my math class, I can say, or those classes have been pretty much, very consistent. So I guess that's what kind of drove me more into the numbers.
And I think that actually kind of goes right into the next uh, point of discussion that I wanted to. I was really interested to hear your thoughts and what you've been doing in terms of study habits, study hacks. I think one of the things you mentioned that is that math doesn't change,
Right,
but there's so many people who don't think they're, good at it, naturally. Um,
right.
they don't think they're, not talented enough for it. But, when you believe that you have a purpose, in life and that, you have to learn something,
Yes.
you figure out how to do it and you definitely have figured out how at least what's from what I've seen in terms of your GPA, is really, really good in terms of the maths and whatnot. So I'm really curious to know what have you what led to that success? Like what do you do in terms of what does it look like on a regular study day for
Oh,
you?
okay. So it's it's a lot of time management. I will say that. Anyone who is a college student or planning to go to college knows that college is a commitment. And so one thing that I like to do is at the beginning of my semester, I'm looking at my classes, right?
Mhm.
So my last semester, I took 18 credit hours. Yes, I know, but I made it work.
Ooh.
I made it work. I made it work with God. God was on my side. But I have this foolproof program. I ended up meeting a professor. I think he was a chemistry professor at Clark Atlanta, and he it was during like a little seminar, STEM seminar we were at, and he told us to you have your schedule, you know how much time you have before and after classes, right?
Mhm.
You have a syllabus that pretty much lets you know when tests, quizzes, homework assignments, all that is due, right?
Mhm.
So what I try to do is allocate time that is solely for that subject. And what I mean is, like, if I have math on one day, if I have math, physics, chem on one day, what I'll do is I'll set time aside for just chem. I'll set time aside for just math. And I don't study longer than 30 minutes. But this is another thing that I do. The subjects that I find myself to have a harder time with, I give that subject a little more time. And with math, the way I strengthen my skills, I just looked at it every day. And I know that sounds very teacher like or professor like, but you really have to, if you want to be better at something, you have to, and I you have to quote unquote exercise that muscle, if
Mhm.
that makes sense what I'm saying.
No, that makes perfect sense.
And a lot of times you have to find someone that or I like to say accountability partner that you meet with once a week, right? Or once every 2 weeks, that you can just bounce your questions off of, because sometimes what I've noticed is when you're dealing with these professors and they're brilliant, they've studied this, they have their PhD in the subject or what have you, they have a hard time of putting what I call in layman's terms certain concepts for you, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes if you talk with another student, they're on your level, right? So they
Yes.
can put it in a way that you'll understand.
Mhm.
Another thing that was very important for me was to figure out what type of learner that I was. And I know people are like, oh, this sounds like a lot of work, but it is. It is a lot of work. You have to figure out what kind of learner you are. Are you better when you know, go over notes, or are you better with going over problems? Like what I noticed was I bought myself a whiteboard because you know we all have had that little fear of, you know, oh, don't make me go up to the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that helped me not only gain confidence, but it helped me get a better visual view of what I was doing, and also use the resources that are around you. Today we have so many different resources. There's
Mm-hmm.
Khan Academy, there's YouTube, there's, you know, all these different resources that you can use to help yourself, you know, help better yourself
Mm-hmm.
in a subject. But the most important thing for me was just giving my subject that time, giving each subject that time. No phone, no food. Like, I'm serious. Like, because you know we get distracted. And I'm guilty of this too. Like, I can't study with my phone. Some people can study with music. I cannot study with music. I have learned that I have to be in a quiet environment, which can be hard for some people. So I know to allocate time to get to myself, or study while my children are asleep, or, you know, give myself that time. And it has really worked for me. So, you know, you do what works. If you're doing something and you know it doesn't work, and oh, I'm going to be hated for this comment, but don't cram. It's a proven fact that you are learning nothing when you cram. You're not retaining what you're learning when you're crammed for something. So you need to give yourself enough time, you know, enough time to let your mind process what you've gone over. Yep.
Yeah, guilty as charged.
Oh, we all are. At some point, we all have been. We all have been so guilty. Yes.
But you hit upon a couple of things that I wanted that, if you don't mind, I guess elaborating on some more. You
Okay.
said 30 minutes. Now, are you talking about you're studying for 30 minutes, take a break, and then come back to it and do another 30 minutes? Or are you talking about 30
No,
minutes a
no, no, no,
day?
no, no. No, 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 no. Not 30 minutes a day. So what I'm saying is I allocate, and you can allocate your 30 minutes however you want to, but I'm saying for each subject, you allocate yourself 30 minutes to study just that subject. And I'm being smooth by saying 30 minutes, because I know a lot of times you're not really going to, you know, study one subject longer than that. And if you do, you'll burn yourself out. So what I'm saying is, okay, like I said, I had the math, the physics, and the chemistry on one day. And
Hmm.
then on the other day, I had like an English class, a swim class. What else did I take? I think I even had to take a biology class
Mm.
on the other day, right? And
Hmm.
these classes come with labs. So that's another
Oof.
thing. You have to utilize your labs. How many times have your professor said, turn this in and leave for the day? And we actually do what? Get up and leave. But you know, but you know you got an assignment that's due next Thursday that you hadn't even looked at. You know what I'm saying? What's
Hmm.
it gonna take for you to look at it for 30 minutes? And that's another thing. I always promise myself, like, even if I'm burnt out tired, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna look at it for 30 minutes. 30 minutes could turn into an hour. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's just that level of productivity that you wanna increase within yourself, because once you get yourself on that schedule, you will get used to doing it. So just to elaborate a little further, if and you, like I said, you take your schedule and you do what fits best for you. But I know for me, my math class was in the morning. I have to take math in the morning. I don't know why. I don't know, but my brain is the best in the morning. I've learned not to take my coding classes in the evening. I have to take those in the morning as well. So what I've learned to do is, okay, if my math class is first thing in the morning, maybe it's like a 10 o'clock class, what I'll do is the night before I spend 30 minutes studying the topic, um, the topic that I had for an assignment, but also try to look at a little piece of the chapter, the next chapter that's to come. And people don't know how important that is. So I'm not saying you have to go all into detail in the next chapter, but you need to at least skim it over. And so I also found myself the next day before the actual math class, like I said, the math class starts at 10. I would get up at maybe, okay, I'm gonna tell the truth, transparency. I would get up at maybe about 8 o'clock and then get myself ready, and then about 9:30 I would look at that chapter and skim over it again. So then when I'm in the math class and the professor is going over those concepts, you see what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I remember looking at that. Oh, I understand. Because it's harder if you haven't seen something and then they have to teach you just from scratch. I encourage everybody to try that, to just look over their chapter before the class, the chapter that the professor will go over, and see how much smoother those concepts lay down on your brain. Because that level of confusion, I mean, don't get me wrong, you may still be a little confused, but you won't be as confused as if you didn't see it at all. And it's like brand new to your brain.
So, one of the things that you mentioned is how, depending on it really kind of depends on what you study. Make sure that you have the 30 minutes allocated per each, for each
Right.
subject.
Right.
But, maybe one day, I'm trying to learn this concept in this chapter, but I have this chapter due by Friday. And,
right.
It still doesn't make sense to me, after that 30 minutes is up. But,
Well,
how
I
do you
say
handle
30 minutes because whatever you're learning, and I'm not just saying 30 minutes and then you don't look at it at all. What I'm saying is you're making a schedule for your schedule.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to explain this the best way I can without showing it to you. You make a schedule for your schedule, and this is just your study habit, right? Because you have to set in positive reinforcement. But I say 30 minutes for each subject because once you get longer than 30 minutes, you're not focused anymore. At this point, you kind of beating a dead horse, you know what I'm saying? Because 30 minutes is, to me, a good enough amount of time to get into your subject, right? With no distractions. See, and you have to factor that in. The distractions are very important. Don't drink too much because then you're going to have to go to the bathroom. Don't get to snacking too much because then you're going to have crumbs on your paper that you're going to have to, wipe off. Don't play music because then your mind will, it takes a split second for you to break that focus. And when that focus is broken, then you have a whole other ball game. So then what I'm saying is when you switch subjects, okay, so let's say I move from mathematics to chemistry and I allocate chemistry 30 minutes. That's something fresh. You see what I'm saying? It's allowing my brain to come down off of the math and then go into something else. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm saying you set the schedule of how you would like, but just give your brain enough transition time. Give your brain enough time to process what you've read. You see what I'm saying? And come back to it. Because I don't know how many times I have sat in front of a math problem and got it wrong maybe 2, 3, 4 times. I'm talking about I've gone through the problem step by step and continue to get it wrong. But by the time I move on to the next subject and I've gotten through my, my schedule for that day, and I say, okay, well, I want to revisit that problem. I've gotten it right. You see what I'm saying? Because I gave my brain time enough to process what it was I've done. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes. I was I guess I kind of phrased it wrong, but I'm glad you went into even more detail with that even more. I was just wondering if you were having if you were having multiple study blocks of math in a day, like you were having, or if it
You
was just one.
could. You could, but like I'm saying, it's all up to you, and that depends on like what your level of understanding is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm saying, if you're really, 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 really struggling on a concept in math moves very fast. Now that's one thing I will say. So if you studied that night, if you gave yourself 30 minutes that night, or what have you, whenever the day before you gave yourself the 30 minutes, and then you, before class, you said, okay, maybe my professor has office hours at this time, let me show up. By the time you get to that class, that concept will have, made itself a little bit more clearer, because this is all with watching YouTube videos and, Khan Academy, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the book isn't just getting it, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to, what I love to do, like I said, Google is my best friend. Sometimes you just have to Google the question and see what comes up. Sometimes you have to use a math array. Sometimes you have to use a photo math. But let me say this disclaimer. I'm not saying to cheat. No. I'm not saying cheat. What I'm saying is you use those resources to help you, because I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly which one of those apps shows you step by step how the problem should be worked.
Mm-hmm.
So just imagine, okay, if you worked out a problem in its entirety, and you go back and you take a picture of that same problem with, say, photo math, and then that way you can actually see what it is and where you got it wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you continue to struggle with it, you can also take it to your professor in office hours and say, hey, I don't understand why I keep doing this here. Or that allows you time to say, to get up with a friend in class who's whizzing. Because y'all know it's always that one person in class that just seems like they're not struggling at all.
Yes.
So yeah, get up, network with that person, and say, hey, I worked out this problem. Now I'm not saying bombard them, because nobody really likes that. But if you've done the hard work yourself, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you go back to that person and you say, this is the part right here that I'm struggling with. I can guarantee you that you'll get it.
Okay.
Because it's foolproof.
I'm going to take your word at that, and that also, I guess it also really that kind of goes right into the next discussion point too, and talking about just figuring out a way to make things work.
Mm-hmm.
For you, what have been your toughest challenges in terms of I know you. I'm. I guess moreover, what was the transition like? Going
Ooh.
from political science to all of a sudden it's a hardcore STEM
Right.
area.
Right. The transition, and it was God. Once I got saved, I really felt like I could do anything. And that was just being honest. Like, I felt like God had given me the strength to do anything. And who am I as a Christian to say that I can't? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times what I've noticed is, and even within myself before I've gotten to this point, is that we say that we can't do things that we've never tried. Right?
Yeah.
How can you say, oh, I'm terrible in biology if you've never taken biology? How can you say, oh, I won't succeed in Cal 3, and you've never taken Cal 3? So what I have learned is not to be afraid of failure. And that takes a lot of, because, we want to be accepted. We want to get things right on the first try. We don't want, we want it to be smooth and seamless, effortless, But if you really think about life, anything worth having is going to be a challenge to you. And I can honestly say political science wasn't a challenge for me. I was walking around campus with a 4.0, but I wasn't fulfilled in what I was doing. It was something that I knew I could do, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So computer science was more so of, okay, I know my math skills aren't that good. That's a challenge there. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Oh, I've never coded before. I love technology, but I've never coded before. How am I going to learn how to code? So it was just all these different challenges that I had to really just rise to the occasion. Like what I like to call a gladiator. I had to be a gladiator. And so that was pretty much my thing. And also with me being a mom of 2 toddlers and a wife, sometimes you don't always get that extra time. And I didn't really get to touch back on this. Well, I did, but I really didn't go into, we kind of got caught up on like the mathematics. But, you know, as far as the computer science classes or programming classes or what have you, whatever security network classes or whatever you're taking, right? You have to be able to use resources. Like I know for CIS majors, like you said, it's a forever growing field, right? Mm-hmm. There are numerous of resources out there for you to dive into to get your feet wet, so to speak. Okay, what I mean by that, there's this website called Udemy, right?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you get on there and you get into, and sometimes I'll just find the cheapest course I can find. And then let me just say this too. You have to invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. I can't even scream this from the mountaintop. Invest in yourself, but you know, be smart about your choices. If I know I'm taking a Python class in next spring and I've never, you know, programmed in Python, why wouldn't I go out and get on YouTube? And I guess that's the inner researcher in me, you know. I don't know, maybe that's just my inner researcher. But you go on YouTube, you know, you get on Python, you know, you download Python. First of all, download Python. Then you get on Google, you get on YouTube, you get on Udemy, what's it called? Coursera?
Yes, Coursera.
Yeah, you get on Coursera, you get on all these different outlets. There's so many. I was amazed. You know, you get on those things and you try to do it before you get into that class, because I think one thing that we misunderstand, and I could say this was another one of my challenges, I assumed my professor would be like my teacher in high school. You know, if you remember high school, in high school, they're so pressed on you getting it. Mm-hmm. You know, they're so dead pressed on you getting it. But really, if you think about it, in college, it's up to you to learn that material. If you understand what I mean, it's really up to you to apply that material that they're giving you in class. It's up to you to, you know, go out and look for those resources. It's up to you to do those things. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that was a challenge for me. And then I'll say another big challenge was to get over my phobia of mathematics. I had a real life phobia of math. And so, you know, just getting off my own back and stop saying, like I said, back to what I started off saying, stop telling yourself that you can't do things. Stop telling yourself, I'm not good at this. We don't understand how much power our words have. You know, if you change your mindset, and I heard someone say a while ago, I don't remember exactly who, that it's important to have a growth mindset. Mm-hmm. When you're doing anything, not just STEM, that it's important to be able to, you know, take criticism. Because what I've noticed is like the criticism is what bothers you the most. It's the criticism. It's not so much of the failure. Yeah, the failure hurts, but it's, ooh, what are they gonna say when I fail? You know, but what does failure mean? we have to really look at what failure means. And so that was something that I guess was a place for where I transitioned, where I said, okay, well, I can take something that I feel like I'm not good at. Cause let me stop you and let me go ahead and interject this testimony in here just so people know how real I'm coming.
Go ahead.
I started off in math 090. Yes, I did. I'm gonna let this sink in. I started off in math 090 because let me give you some background information. When I got into my community college, they require you to take this test. Like I said, I'm non-traditional, so it had been a couple of years since I had been in school, so they want to have you take a test to see where you place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I was not good in math, and I knew that I was a great test taker, right? But I wasn't so much good at math to know, okay, how did I get this answer and why was this the answer? If that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how to do process of elimination and get the right answer, which is not good. So when I sat down for that test and I got to the math portion of it, I said, okay, well, C is gonna be my best friend today. So for every other answer on that test, and I say it was probably like 60 questions, every other answer was C. I didn't even look at the test. And so I placed in 090. And if you are a college student, you know math 100 is where they start counting for college credit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's like 112, I guess, pre-cal and things of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
I was below college below college algebra. That's how low I scored. And so, like I said, it was a big blow to my confidence, but I did go in picking every other answer because I felt like that was a point of transparency for myself. You know that you're not good at math. You know that you're a very calculator reliant. Like, you will put 1 + 1 in the calculator because you don't trust yourself. Like, you're like, oh no, I don't want to mess this up. So when I placed in that class and I was there, it was very humbling. It was a very humbling experience for me. But I knew I had to be there. And I tell y'all, I was so far in my head. I made a 70 on my first test, and I promise you, we weren't doing anything but percentages. I went home and I was like, no, like, this not gonna work. But at that moment, I decided that it wasn't going to defeat me. As a Christian, we don't let things defeat us. Like, we might get knocked down, we might stumble a little bit, but we will not be defeated.
Mm-hmm.
We will not be defeated. And so I had to really just keep leaning on my faith. Okay, Amina, this is what you want to do, right? So, you have to take some math to be in college anyway. Like, what are they called? Your prereqs,
Yep.
your prereqs. So, I made my way on up to math 100. Okay, so I'm in math 100, and by this time I've decided that I want to be a computer science major. So that's 090, 098, 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I get a math 100, and we're doing something called factoring. And I'm like, this had to come straight from the devil. No one who has the love of Jesus in their heart could have come up with this. Like, no. But you know what? I ended up making it through that too. But I will not say that it didn't come without some of my skin. Like, and I think we really just have to understand, like, just get yourself in a place that anything that you want is not going to come just by, I just so haphazardly was in the right place and it fell on me. Look at this rock, this big boulder fell on me. I was in the right place at the right time. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And going into STEM, especially as a minority, it's so important, it's so important, but the challenges are still there. And I just feel like it's up to myself and others to bridge a gap, because I learned a lot about myself, and how my confidence was not where it needed to be with education, and how my confidence in myself and my learning ability was very poor, because as long as you have a brain, and I will say this for everyone who is listening, as long as you have a brain, you are able to learn.
Amen.
Yes. So.
Well, I feel encouraged. Oh man, it really is. We talk about saints and STEM, but I like what you say. It's beyond just trying to get a degree. It can be applied really
Right.
to any aspect of your life, and it really does start with you know being saved and being grounded, and the fact that your life does have purpose. And when you find what your purpose is, you have that aha moment, and all of a
Right.
sudden, even though you could get a C or D or God forbid an F on a test, but it's how do we get better from it? It's not I'm a failure.
Right.
It's hey, what do I need to to come back and do better, because because this is the purpose in my life. This is what I want to do. That makes perfect sense to me. um, and
Yes. Because
I
I always think about some of the celebrities out here. Oh, I'm sorry, like Bill Gates. Come on. Oprah.
oh this if
Uh-oh.
you're just talking, you kind of went out there for a sec. uh
Uh-oh. Hello?
yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Whew. Technical difficulties.
It happens. It happens.
There we go. We back.
Mm-hmm.
uh you were saying.
Yeah, some of the great, quote unquote, great. Really, we look at Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, in anyone you can think of who has success today. It can be your own mom. I know with my mom, she faced some real adversity and she failed sometimes, but that failure didn't stop her from getting to the end goal, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's the ultimate motivator, you know. So,
Yeah, you can use it as a club to bash yourself over with, or you can use it as something to give you drive, and improve your grit, overall. Now you have been mentioning this all throughout the uh, uh, discussion, but I guess maybe just a little bit more on how has your faith impacted you in your academic pursuits?
whew, okay, okay. Let me say this. Let me say this pretty loud for the ones in the back. Lean not to your own understanding. Trust
Hmm.
God in all things. In all things, trust God.
Amen.
In all things, trust God. And like I was saying, I had so many issues when it came to confidence, that being saved was really the biggest push for me, and has been the biggest push for me to still to this day, because I know that Amina may fail, but God does not.
Mm. Mm.
So I know that anything that I do, if it's in his will and if it's, if it's for the purpose and the good of all, that I will be successful. And so I always keep that in the back of my mind. And no, I'm not saying that I haven't gone through hard situations to where, my faith has been like, ooh, because I was just faced with the impossible last semester. I will tell y'all, we're in this whole pandemic. Most of the schools have gone into virtual learning. But the spring was like really a difficult time for us all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was taking calculus. I was taking Cal 1 and physics with Cal 1 and, some other classes. And like I said, I was taking 18 hours, 18 credit hours. And then just to be switched to online just when you think you have it all together.
Uh-huh.
And so I saw even as a computer science major, having to transition my learning, all those other classes online had been a real game changer for me. So I know in my math class I was at like a B, that struggle B, everybody know that struggle B when it's like an 80 and you just trying to blow on it. You're like, please stay. So moment of transparency, I bombed the test. I made a smooth 52.
Oof.
And I was like, no, because if you remember, that semester went by extremely fast because we were almost halfway done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say we had like 4 or 5 weeks left, and then we went online. It was just crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And so, I had the time where I cried, I screamed, I was so frustrated. I said, no, because you can imagine how far that took me down.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine how far that took me down. So needless to say, I fought that thing out, but I didn't trust God. I didn't trust God like I know I should do. And so, I'll say that 77 stayed there. But then I got to final. And everything you riding on is final.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is riding on this final.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a 4 credit hour class. And
Oof.
how if you get an A or B, the difference that can make on your GPA is like crazy.
Yeah.
And so I remember just out of nowhere, it just hit me. Okay, Amina, do what you know to do. Hit your knees. Ask God for what you want. Ask him. And I promise you, I was so frustrated, because I had worked so hard and I had tried to stick in there, and then I didn't want to, get too antsy with my professor because at the time I knew she was struggling as well, because, we were all struggling. And so both my kids at home, it was just a big old ordeal. And so, like I said, I hit my knees and I said, God, I want an A in Jesus' name. That's what I just kept. I would not let it go. I would not let it go. I said, Lord, you know how hard we work. I said, we. Oh, you know how hard we work. Don't let me fall down like this. And I kid you not. I kid you not. As soon as I said that prayer, I let it go. I took a deep breath and I said, okay, all you can do is go in. You know how it gets. You prayed about it. All you can do is just go in and take the test.
Mm-hmm.
I got into my final. My professor asked us, she said, what grade do you feel? Okay, so first of all, this story don't come without a couple of twists and turns. First of all, this lady, we're already on edge. I have a 78.9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm in B range.
Yeah.
I know I'm in B range. So like I said, I'm asking God for an A, but my mind is still on a B. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
First mistake. Big no, don't do that. Don't do that. So I kid you not, we had one more assignment. That assignment, my professor did not even put in the grade book. So I'm in the fetal position at home.
Mm-hmm.
I did not leave the house. Like, I was just watching Blackboard, like, oh, this better move. Like, I'm not playing. So, okay, we got around to our professor decided to send us messages, right? So she told our whole class, she said, either now this is the curveball. She said, none of you will fail this class.
Wow.
She said, none of you will fail this class. But me going and, just being extra, having to know all the specifics, another mistake, another mistake. Sometimes you don't need to know the specifics, but me being me, I had to ask. I said, okay, well, we know what passing is. Are you talking about C passing, B passing, A passing, what's passing? And she said, you will leave this class with a C. And then she said, but if you decide to take the final, we'll see, right? That's what she said. So I promise you, I had a friend named Camilla who was also in the class from Stanford, right? And she was getting ready to go into pharmacy school. So she decided to come back to Lawson to take a class and then go back to, Stanford and transfer the class. And it was super important because she was applying for pharmacy school. She had a lower grade than me. Let me just say that. And so me and her were texting each other, sending the eye emojis, like, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? Mind you, I've already prayed about this. I've already asked God. I've already asked him in his name. So I shouldn't have even continued to worry about it. But man, in our ways, we will. We will. It's not always perfect. And so me and her, I said, I'm not taking it. She said, yes, you are. I said, I'm gonna take my C. I'm taking it. I'm just gonna take my C and take my chances. My flesh had set in on me. You done worked so hard. How dare she? You're going through a pandemic like she is. Every excuse I can make for myself in the book came up, hit me smack dab in the forehead. But then somewhere out of nowhere, I text my professor, and I can't tell y'all how, when, or where, but I text her in the little group message, and I said, I'm taking the final. We got to that final. The final was like on a Thursday. We get to the final. I'm talking about I'm sweating, y'all. I'm sweating so hard. The house is on 67, and I'm sweating. I'm sweating bullets. I can't even type without sweat hitting my laptop, which is my pet peeve. I love my laptop, y'all. Y'all just don't know. And so we get on there, and she has a little conversation with us. She said, y'all have done wonderful this semester. She said, she went through and she said, what grade do you think you deserve in my class? And I'm like, ooh. Because I'm a super truthful person. So I'm like, do I tell her what I want just for me, what I want? Or should I be truthful? And I remember my husband that morning telling me, your problem is you have to ask for what you want. Stop thinking about, oh, is this going to be enough? When somebody asks you what you want, you tell them what you want. And I've always struggled with that my whole life. It's just saying what it is I wanted. And so, my husband's in the same class, and he said, I want an A+. Right? And so then she gets around to me, and I'm like, oh, I want an A in Jesus' name. And so then she asked Camilla, and she's like, oh, she wants an A. Me and you, I didn't tell y'all the funny part. The funny part was we were the only 3 that showed up for that exam.
Wow.
We had a class of 12. We were the only ones brave enough to show up for that exam. And so when I tell you God came through in a mighty way, when I tell you our exam was just her and us on a Zoom conference call, and she just went over different concepts, and we had to tell her what we knew about those concepts. And needless to say, Amina Shackleford left that class with an A.
Wow.
Okay, all right.
Wow.
All right. So I'm saying, I know I've gone all around, but my faith has really, God has pushed me through every situation, even when I have not been exactly on the straight and narrow. Like, I'm so serious. Even when it looks impossible, I have learned to trust God. And I've learned to pray, and I've learned to express to God what I'm feeling. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you'll go to other students and we all in the same kind of boat, and we get the bash, and the professor was like, man, they just mean, all kinds of stuff. But those situations in life, I feel like they are there to make you stronger. And I really feel like those things, or my faith has pushed me to be a better STEM scholar because of those moments like that, when I'm like, I've worked so hard. Like, the last thing I can do is, pray. Like God, like, come on now, like. But had I trust him in the beginning, I would have known. So yeah.
Oh, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. I was just letting it sink in all over again. Cause there was a moment.
Take your time.
Yeah, I cried like a baby again in the fetal position, but this was still for joy. So yeah, now I'm able to take on Cal 2, knowing that I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. We have actually reached the end of this podcast, and wow, what a powerful testimonies. Um, uh, I mean, I can say, if I'm the only one watching this, and I'm sure I'm not going to be, but I feel so encouraged in terms of just life in general, from speaking with you, hearing you talk about study strategies, and talking about your dreams, and what you've had to overcome,
Mm-hmm.
to get to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. I know this is going to tremendously bless someone, but
Yes,
uh,
to God be the glory.
definitely want to give some space. If you have any final thoughts or anything that you want, any closing remarks that you want to add uh, to this podcast
I
interview.
sure do. I sure do. Remember you all. Take things one step at a time. Don't worry about the big picture right now. Worry about putting one foot in front of the other. Trust God in all things, in all things, in all things, and always give thanks.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Oh God, this is so good. Again, for those watching, or well, I guess listening, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm not sure if it's only going to go up on YouTube or Facebook, but it's definitely going to go up on somewhere, because I feel like this was definitely needed. Again, couldn't say it enough. This has blessed me a lot. It's an honor to be able to talk with Sister and Sister Amina Kelly. Um, I guess I should have asked at the beginning if someone um, I guess if you have any questions or comments um, for Sister Amina, just leave them in the comment section and we'll see what we can do. Sister Amina, would you mind if we do get like questions or comments for you that you would like to answer them?
I sure would love to connect with you all.
So yeah, you heard it from Sister Amina. If you have any questions, comments, put them in the comment section, and
Yes.
she will answer them.
Even if it's a little motivation, we're here to motivate each other. Let's go.
I love it. So yeah, again, thank you so much for doing this. I am I can't wait to see what happens, what doors continue to open for you in your life as you continue to pursue uh, uh, data um, uh,
Science.
data science. I'm
Yes.
really excited for you. So again, thank you so much for being on.
And thank you so much for having me, and be blessed.
All right.